Next, let's talk about wedging. Often in ceramic studios, we'll see wedging tables that are covered with canvas like this. It might be stapled or velcroed on the underneath side of the table to hold it really tight, or a lot of times you'll see plaster embedded in a wooden frame. Plaster and clay have a unique relationship. The plaster will absorb some moisture from the clay. However, you want to be careful that you're not getting plaster into the clay. That can cause a lot of problems in the future. So HardieBacker is also a great surface for wedging since it is slightly porous. Here I have some reclaimed clay, so as you can see, I can wedge this pretty easily. My table is very sturdy and the clay doesn't stick to this surface. Another option is on your loose canvas or the canvas board. So oftentimes the canvas board will slide when you're wedging and the staples can scratch the surface of the table. So do be mindful of the surface that you have your wedging board on if it's stapled. If you have kind of a surface that your canvas will stick to, then you could wedge on a piece of canvas like this. So you can see the canvas is just coming up a little bit, but it's working pretty well, and the HardieBacker does kind of hold the canvas down. Another option for wedging is a plaster bat. I poured this plaster using the top of a copy paper box as my mold, and this works really well for wedging. Especially if your clay is very, very soft, then plaster is a great way to go. This is what I also use to reclaim or recycle my clay. I'll show you from the side so you can see a little bit better, but we want to wedge clay so that it is homogeneous, meaning that we don't have any areas that are softer or areas that are harder. I'm wedging reclaim, so it's really important that I wedge this well so that I get all of my different clay the same consistency. I also have mostly one type of clay body, but another one is mixed in with this as well. Another reason we want to wedge is to expel any air bubbles. Things don't explode in the kiln because of air. It's actually the moisture that's trapped inside of that air pocket that causes that breakage because the moisture needs to evaporate. So I generally use the ram's head method of wedging, especially for clay this size. I spiral wedge if I'm wedging larger amounts of clay. I cut this in half to see if I had any air pockets and to see if I can make sure that those clay bodies are mixing together really well. So this is looking really good. I just like to slam these two together and then start wedging again. You might need to put it in a plastic bag and then spray the inside of the bag so some moisture can reconstitute. Sometimes in the winter I even put on just a tiny bit of lotion before I start working in clay, so that way the clay isn't just sucking out all the moisture in my hands. Notice too that I have this plaster bat on a piece of tag board. I don't want to get any plaster on my HardieBacker board because I don't want that plaster to get in my clay later. Another tip is that if you are throwing with your wedged clay, to put the clay according to the spiral that you throw in. So I am right-handed, I throw with the wheel going counterclockwise. So if I put the clay going this direction, then those clay particles are already in that spiral ready to go. If you are working with slabs, it's also helpful to put the clay on the side, on either horn of the ram, either like this or like this. So again, that clay is kind of in that spiral. If you've ever had problems with your clay kind of peeling apart, like in layers, that would be because going this direction, you get more of that layering. Placing your clay in this direction is going to help prevent that peeling apart. Wedging clay also helps with the workability of the clay. If I'm working with slabs, then I just cut directly off the block from a fresh bag of clay and just roll them out without wedging. But if you have problems with your slabs, or if you are using recycled or reclaim, then you need to wedge your clay for sure.